Welcome to the deep dive. All right, today we're tackling a dessert that, it strikes fear into the hearts of even seasoned bakers, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It looks so simple, that perfect spiral, but it's just notorious for cracking. We are getting into the Swiss roll.
Or the jelly roll or
Yeah.
roulade, whatever you want to call it. Our mission here is basically to figure out how to get that perfect crack-free sponge. We've looked at all kinds of sources.
Chocolate ones, vanilla ones.
Yeah, everything from rich chocolate logs with ganache to, the classic vanilla with jam. But the secret, the real secret, is always in the technique for that sponge.
Okay, let's just get right into that structural challenge then, because with a normal cake, you can kind of hide mistakes with frosting. Here, the structure is the dessert.
It is. It's a total physics problem.
Yeah.
You need a cake that's super tender, but also strong enough to bend into a tight circle.
And if it's too dry,
It shatters.
Mm.
Catastrophic failure. It's all about pliability.
So when I was looking at the recipes, I expected, tons of butter for richness. But the most successful ones, they all pointed to oil.
That's the first big secret. It's a chemical choice. Oil is liquid at room temperature,
Right.
and that means the cake's structure stays soft and flexible. It's what gives you that bendiness you need. Almost all the good recipes we saw use vegetable or canola oil for exactly that reason.
So I'm trading a little bit of that buttery flavor for structural integrity.
Precisely. Butter tastes great,
Yeah.
but it solidifies when it cools, and that makes the cake rigid
And a rigid cake is a cake that's going to crack.
the second you try to roll it.
Yeah.
So oil is your insurance policy.
The choice of flour seemed just as critical, especially for the chocolate versions.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
The sources were very clear on this. For chocolate rolls, cake flour is almost non-negotiable.
Why is that? Because of the cocoa powder?
Exactly. Cocoa powder is very drying, and it has no gluten. So if you use all-purpose flour, you risk developing too much gluten to compensate, and you get a tough cake. Cake flour keeps it tender and pliable.
Okay, and this was the really fascinating part for me. The secret ingredient in almost every chocolate recipe: coffee.
It's such a brilliant trick.
And we're not talking about just a hint of flavor. It's replacing the water or milk.
Right. And it's not really there for a coffee taste. It's there because it deepens the chocolate flavor, it makes it richer, but it also adds and retains moisture.
Ah, so it's doing double duty.
It is. You could use water, sure, but you lose that flavor amplification.
Mm.
Keeping that sponge moist is like the #1 defense against the dreaded crack.
So we have the right fat, the right flour, but where the recipes really split is how to get air into the cake, the structure. So let's get into the sponge showdown.
Yeah, we found two main methods. First up is the separated egg technique. Think of it like a chiffon cake. We saw this a lot in the chocolate recipes.
This one sounds a little high maintenance.
It is. You have to separate your eggs, whip the whites into a stiff meringue. That meringue is basically all of your leavening.
All the lift.
All the lift.
Yeah.
And then the whole game depends on folding that meringue into your yolk mixture without knocking all the air out. If you deflate it.
It's over. Flat, dense cake.
Yep, before it even gets in the oven.
So why would a baker choose this riskier method?
It's a great question. The thing is, this chiffon-style sponge is often a little bit loftier and maybe a touch drier.
Okay.
And when you're using a really rich, wet filling, like a ganache or a heavy buttercream, that porous structure is actually better. It can absorb some of that moisture without turning gummy.
Ah, so it's a structural partner for a heavy filling. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which brings us to method 2, the whole egg genoise.
This one seemed to pop up more with the vanilla and the jam-filled rolls, and it looks, I have to say, a lot less stressful.
It can be.
Oh.
With the genoise, you beat the whole eggs and sugar together for a long, long time.
Until you get that ribbon stage.
Right, until it's thick and pale and triples in volume. But the real pro move here is to warm the eggs and sugar first.
Over simmering water.
Yeah, just gently heat them. Warming the eggs stabilizes the foam. It makes the whole structure stronger and way more resilient. So when you go to fold in your flour, the batter is much more forgiving. You're less likely to deflate it.
So more stability with the whole egg method, but a better canvas for heavy fillings with the separated egg method. That's a really interesting trade-off.
It is. And no matter which method you pick, the final warning from every single source was about how you add the dry ingredients.
The great sin of overmixing.
The absolute cardinal sin. You have to sift everything and you have to fold it in super gently. We're talking maybe 15, 20 folds max.
That's it.
That's it. Anymore. And you kill the air, you develop the gluten, and you end up with a heavy gummy cake.
Okay, so now we have our perfect flexible sponge out of the oven. This is the moment of truth. This is the great rolling debate. Everyone has a horror
The
story.
panic is definitely real. The two main culprits are overbaking. A dry cake will never roll, or just waiting too long.
And the traditional advice, what we're calling technique A, is to roll it while it's piping hot.
Right, the hot roll. You flip the cake out onto a towel dusted with powdered sugar or cocoa, and you roll it up right away, like within a minute,
With the towel inside.
with the towel inside.
Yeah.
The idea is that the cake is most pliable then, and it sort of sets a memory of that rolled shape as it cools.
This sounds frantic, and we found a counter technique, a method that seems like a total game changer, the steam cooling method.
This is the big aha
Yeah.
moment for us. Instead of rolling it hot, you take the pan out of the oven, and you immediately cover it tightly with foil.
So what does that actually do?
It traps all the steam coming off the cake.
Mm.
It creates this super humid little greenhouse over the sponge.
Oh, wow.
So as the cake cools, it's basically bathing in moisture,
Yeah.
which keeps it incredibly soft and pliable. You can let it cool completely to room temperature.
So you completely skip the frantic hot rolling step.
You skip it entirely. It's a brilliant hack that uses moisture science to take all the anxiety out of the process.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Okay, so we've got a cooled, unrolled cake. What are the pro tips for getting that perfect, clean spiral when we add the filling?
A few little things make a huge difference. First, when you spread your filling, always leave a 1 or 2 inch border on the far end.
So it doesn't squish out.
Exactly. If you fill it to the edge, you'll get a messy seam when you roll it up.
And for getting that coil really tight and even?
There's a great tip for that. You take a sharp knife and you make a couple really shallow cuts parallel to the edge you're starting from. Don't cut through, just score it.
What does that do?
It helps the cake to bend really sharply right at the beginning of the roll, which gives you a super tight spiral from the center out.
That's clever.
Also, if you're using a cream filling, use a piping bag instead of a spatula
For an even layer.
for a perfectly even layer.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference in how clean the spiral looks when you slice it.
Okay, structure is secure. Let's talk about the fun part, the fillings. What did the sources recommend beyond just basic whipped cream?
Well, stability is the name of the game. We saw a lot of cream cheese frosting. But if you do want to use whipped cream, you have to stabilize it so it doesn't weep.
Right, so it doesn't get watery. How do you do that?
You can use gelatin, or an even easier way is to add a little mascarpone cheese.
Mascarpone, why does that work?
It's got a super high fat content, and it's much firmer than cream. It basically acts like scaffolding, holding all the air and moisture in place. No more slumping or weeping in the fridge.
And for a classic jelly roll,
With jam.
you want a thin, seedless jam. And the key is to spread a really thin layer. If you go too thick or use a chunky jam, it will drag when you slice the roll and mess up the beautiful spiral.
That makes sense. Let's move to the outside, the topping on a chocolate roll. It's usually a rich ganache, right?
That's the classic choice, yeah. Hot cream poured over chocolate. But we actually found an interesting alternative.
Oh.
Some sources argued for a much lighter chocolate glaze instead, one made with shortening or coconut oil.
Why would you choose that over a decadent ganache? The argument is that a really thick, heavy ganache can sometimes completely overpower the light, airy sponge you work so hard to create.
So it's a question of balance.
It is. Do you want pure richness, or do you want to let the delicate cake shine through?
Okay, this all sounds amazing, but it's pointless if you slice it too soon. What are the final steps?
Chilling. It is 100% non-negotiable. Once it's rolled, you put it seam side down in the fridge for at least an hour, maybe 2.
And that's to let the filling set.
It lets everything firm up and settle. It's the only way you're going to get those clean, perfect slices. Oh, and use a sharp knife to trim the ends after it's been chilled. That gives you that professional bakery look.
What about making it ahead of time?
You can. It'll keep for 2 or 3 days in the fridge pretty well, up to 5 if there's no fruit in it.
But if you add fresh fruit,
Be careful. Fresh strawberries, for example, will start to make the cake soggy after maybe 2 days. For longer storage, you can freeze it.
really, the whole roll.
The whole thing. Wrap it really well in plastic wrap, then foil. It'll last for a few months. Just thaw it overnight in the fridge.
So after this deep dive, it's clear the Swiss roll is really this beautiful marriage of ingredients and technique. It's all about balancing that moisture from the oil and the steam with the architecture from the egg foam.
Absolutely. And what's so cool is that these skills making a stable, airy sponge They're foundational for so many other classic desserts. Bûche de Noël, delicate layer cakes, petit four.
Mhm.
It's all based on these same genoise and chiffon principles.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, the baker. How could applying these Genoese techniques, especially that idea of warming the eggs to make a more stable foam, how could that change your approach to any light cake? Or even something as tricky as a souffle? Maybe the secret to your next bake isn't a new ingredient, but just a little warmth, a bit more patience, and a gentler fold. We definitely think you should try that steam cooling method. That's all for this deep dive. We'll talk to you next time.